How's it going, everybody? This is Travis from Frostbine Gaming. Welcome back to the Into the Looking Glass podcast. I am here with a very special guest. I have Varni from Main Phase TCG here.
What's going on, guys? Hello, hello.
For those of you that don't know Varni, I'm going to hand the mic over to him for a second here and let him tell you a little bit about himself and uh, his experience in Grand Archives so far. So take it away, man.
That's right. It's your boy Varney. What's going on, Archivist? Y'all heard the intro. Y'all know what's up. We are guest starring on Frostbine Gaming or Travis's podcast here, and I very appreciate you for having me on today. It turns out I just found out like 10 minutes ago that Travis here is the person who, and I'm gonna say this, he stole the Diana CSRs from me. Not literally, but he is the person I was talking about on podcast who picked up the entire Diana lineage right before I went to pick up the Diana one. So yes, we learn something new every day. But yeah, it is. What are we? I think we're like 2 weeks removed from Ascent Boston now.
Yeah, it's
So
like it's like 2 weeks out roughly.
I've been going through feels like not like emotions, but I feel like I don't know how to describe it, but I've been going through like the Grand Archive emotions, so to say. And I've been stuck in this place where I'm like, what do I want to play? It's that problem I have whenever I enter any card game and then I start exploring and I start seeing like, okay, this is how things are working. I'm past the all right, I have learned the game. Now let's start having fun, right? Like, not that learning the game isn't fun, but when you have an understanding of the card game, it really makes it you start seeing things in different lights and you're like, all right, cool. Now I can really like explore everything that this game has to offer. It's like you completed all the tutorials, right? So I'm sitting
Yeah.
here and I'm like, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue playing Crux Knight, Lorraine? Do I want to go to Merlin? Do I want to explore something else? So that's how the last 2 weeks have been for me. I've just been like everywhere and anywhere.
And in my honest opinion, I through my history of TCGs and everything, up until I was an adult, I always was that kid who had to cobble together whatever they could scrounge up in terms of getting a competitive deck put together. So I have always been that underdog rooting type of player. So I tend to lean heavily towards strategies that aren't really looked at. Was when I looked at like Cursebreaker Diana is one of my favorite decks to play around with and everything. And when that card first came out, there was absolutely no way to make that card work. But when they came out with ALC Alter and they released a couple support cards for it, I was all on board trying to make that work. And then MRC Alter came around and introduced more things for it. And it still just wasn't quite there yet. And then now I have all these new curse toys and everything that came out in DTR. And I've really been enjoying tinkering around trying to play Cursebreaker. I always enjoyed Diana and the whole like all the mechanics because like how many card games can say that you can actually like you can physically load a gun in this card game? Like how many card games can you think of that actually do that?
This is very true.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I appreciate about Grand Archive is how much let me preface this real quick. I feel like every time I talk about this game, I'm always like, it feels like I'm glazing it for lack of better wording. And the only thing that I can do right now is glaze it because I have been enjoying the game a lot. Of course, every game has criticisms, but like I just was talking with Bobby Tortilla yesterday,
Okay.
and I was like, "Yeah, if there's one thing I appreciate about Grand Archive, or if there's one thing I love about Grand Archive," I'm just like, I find myself saying that more often and often, but it's true. If there's one thing I like about Grand Archive is it's fun with these concepts that you really don't see in other games, or if you do see them, feel like the devs are a little bit afraid to make them work in the way that they should at times, just because, we're playing a physical card game and not a digital one or something where they have more leniency in their mechanics. So, yeah, I mean, I do enjoy that aspect of it a lot.
Yeah, like I get what you're saying about the whole glazing thing because every time I talk to my friends about this game because like they're really big into One Piece right now. I was at a wedding this past weekend and everything. Which, by the way, if you've never been to a Laotian wedding before, they are absolutely wild. I would I would highly recommend if you ever have the ability or the I'll call it a distinct honor of being invited to one of those. It is an absolute blast, but I digress. As far as that goes, when I'm talking to my friends about these things, like they're all talking about the One Piece card game, which like I know is great, but I'll start talking about Grand Archive, and then I feel what you're saying here about just glazing everything. It's so hard. It's so hard to not make it sound like this like absolute amazing thing because yes, like any other card game, it has its flaws. It has its moments. It has its metas that are just like, here we go. Now I'm gonna have to sit here and deal with all this. Like, I'm unfondly thinking back to Razor Gale and having to sit there and watch my opponent play with themselves the entire game. So,
Oh my goodness.
uh, were you around for Razor Gale?
No, but I experienced just a little bit of it on the I Scrubbed Out event at Ascent Boston. And I was like, oh, so this is why this was busted.
Yeah, it was not an enjoyable experience at all because every single thing that you did and every single thing that they did involved in you getting ticked for a point or more of damage, based off of how many Razor Gales were there. And then whenever you would go to materialize your champion to level up to get that little bit of extra health, they'd Tempest Downfall you for the game.
Yep.
Yep. That was that.
Yeah, we,
So,
we we learned about that. It was not a it was obviously it was a better experience because, you have to rest your champion, so I couldn't just get three visited for what was that, a total of like it was one, I guess with one Razor Gale that would have been 3 damage, with two Razor Gales, 6, and then you just keep doubling it. So
well, so even worse, I didn't have to experience this thankfully, but I believe it was Ascent Toronto right after the set dropped. Before the errata on 3 visits, when you could chain 3 visits, even though your champion was rested, it was like a condition or a mechanic cost to move 3 visits to the next spot,
mhm.
even though your champion was rested. So basically, their champion would be rested. They just be like, okay, 3 visits, move, 3 visits, move, 3 visits, move, and they do it for however many 3 visits they had and just kill you.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Hence the errata on 3 visits now that it is a condition that you have to rest your champion to move 3 visits, as opposed to it just moving, but you don't get the beneficial effects of the card.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's make some time for some more glazing of Grand Archive.
Oh, I'm all for the glazing. Go for it.
So coming from Bandai games, I've played I think I've played every Bandai card game. So I'm a very big Bandai card game player in my last 3 almost 4 years of playing just Bandai card games.
All right,
So
hold
I
that thought. Hold
started
that thought. Hold that thought.
yeah,
I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I'm gonna test you on that. Did you play the original like the Naruto card game when it originally came out?
no. That's why I
Okay,
say just the last 3 or 4 years.
gotcha. Okay.
Although I've heard of people wanting the Naruto card game to come back, and as a Naruto fan myself, I am not opposed. I haven't played the original though, so I have no idea what it plays like. But there's one thing that does scare me is if they follow the same formula that their current card games play like, then it won't be overly unique, which would kind of suck because Naruto has a lot of things I think that would make it really fun as a different mechanic card game, like Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is one of my favorite Bandai card games, even though I don't play it. I think the game is very mechanically sound and is probably, in terms of mechanics, one of the best card games out there. And I'm not talking about like the actual effects they have in the game, just the mechanics of how the core gameplay
Yes.
mechanics. It is the one that is the best set up to handle power creep and to provide an engaging and fun gameplay experience for both you and your opponent on either player's turn.
Oh no,
And
I totally agree.
I don't think you can say that for a lot of card games, especially for some of Bandai's card games. So with Dragon Ball, I mean, that was their first entry back into TCGs, and it was one that was only over here in America for quite a few years until COVID when we had gotten Digimon.
Yep.
But with
I remember.
Dragon Ball, good.
I was say I remember during COVID Digimon dropping on the on Black Friday, the original like pre-release of it. I ended up going down to a local card shop when they had the pre-release for it, and they sold. I think they had like over 100 boxes or something, and they sold out in a day.
Sheesh,
Yeah,
that's
it was
crazy.
insane.
That really is insane, especially for something like Digimon. Like I love Digimon, don't get me wrong, but that has a lot to say for like IP power, because Digimon's definitely one of the smaller. All right,
You
that's
think
probably
it's
the wrong way to
small,
say
but like there's a huge
it.
like hidden community like
We are a very dedicated community for Digimon.
yes.
It is it is so weird, but forget about Digimon another time. For
Yes.
Dragon Ball, uh, they they kind of do everything. I'm not saying they necessarily do everything right, but the way that like Weebs runs GA feels kind of like the way that like Bandai was running Dragon Ball, at least in the beginning.
Mhm.
And I say that because they weren't afraid to errata cards if there was something that was just like, oh, yeah, no, that should not be allowed, or that's probably something that needs to be fixed. And rather than just ban the card outright, yeah, we'll just errata the card. And I know erratas can leave bad taste in players' mouths, which is why I like when Weebs does erratas. Sometimes they'll have like the correct printings come out for the cards in different, whether it's a reprint or some other way they distribute it. But the one thing I hate that uh, in the way that Bandai runs games currently is they don't errata cards anymore for fixes, or at least not in any game outside of Dragon Ball. Like for One Piece, for Sakazuki, you could have fixed that leader really easily, and instead of fixing him, they just said, "Yeah, no, he's banned, and then we'll give you this promo leader that is quite literally meant to replace him, but he is 10 times worse." Just to get around that errata issue.
I
And it's like,
noticed that about One Piece. One thing I will give One Piece credit for is the one thing that I guess Weeps could take kind of from that playbook is the instead of just outright banning a card, ban the card in interaction with the champion or with a
right,
certain strategy or something. Like if you have like for example, they ban Lost in Thoughts due to certain water strategies having way too much use out of it. Like you played in fractals or like fractal mill. You could be like if you're playing the any version of a fractal deck, or just like if you include fractals in your deck, you cannot play Lost in Thought or something along those lines.
yeah, I agree. I think talking about like bands and well, it's funny. I was watching I think it was Recollection Step. No, something I was watching, can't remember, but somebody said, "Why do we call it the ban and restriction list? But cards only ever get banned." And I was like, you know what? That is very true. It is just a
That
ban
is
list. It's
true.
not a BNR list. But in talking about like BNRs, however, I don't think whenever people come out with card games, companies, people, however, it always feels like everybody has their own idea on this is how I'm going to fix problems in the metagame. And nothing's ever really like that one true solution. I
No.
mean, Yu-Gi-Oh's been around for over 20 years, 25 years. And they're, uh, they have three different limits. They have their unlimited and then semi-limited, limited, and banned.
Banned. Yep.
And even that doesn't necessarily fix problems all the times. And it's probably because you can make use of something like pair bans and say you can't use this card if you're using that card. Or, I'm sure they've eroded cards. I wouldn't put it past Konami to errata cards as
Oh no,
well.
they definitely have. I played Yu-Gi-Oh for way longer than I'm willing to admit. um, like a couple decks that are kind of old schoolish, basically, because just nostalgia's sake. I'll break them out to play with my kids or whatever. But no, they've definitely errated cards before. But Yu-Gi-Oh is also known as the game that you need like a scholarship in English to actually play, because I remember, and I just have to get this out when it comes to that. One of the biggest early issues in Yu-Gi-Oh was the priority clause, where if it was written a certain way on a card maintained priority, and it made something else, like if a card read in a specific way, it would miss its timing, even though
Okay.
whatever's happening at that point in time. So in GA terms, think of it like this. I play this card with an on enter. I have a card on the board that has an on death trigger, but I respond with a card, or they respond with a card that blows up the board. They still get their on enter trigger, but your on death trigger misses timing.
Oh, gotcha. Ew.
That's basically the best way I can explain it in that kind of terminology without getting too complicated. But yeah, they've definitely errated their cards and different things with their game. I don't know how many times, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think all of that, I think any game should really just utilize all of that when it comes to fixing the metagame. Using Digimon as the example, because we just got a ban list maybe like 2 weeks ago as well now. They they don't have semi limits. Play sets are four for what it's worth, anyways. So it's pretty much four, one, or zero. But they also gave us pair bans and finally started using them, because before we've had pair bans for like unintended game mechanics. And then we got our first pair ban like maybe at this point 6 months ago for something that wasn't necessarily unintended, but also was kind of just like, yeah, this probably shouldn't be done. But now we finally have one that's like a functional, like, all right, yeah, we recognize that while this is allowed, and like, let's just say we planned for this, this shouldn't be a thing. And to try to nerf the power of the deck, you can't use these two cards in the same deck. And it's like, cool. We're finally getting to the point in Digimon where it's like, we can have these cards and they don't necessarily some cards don't deserve to be banned, which is realistically at the end of the day what it all boils down to.
Yes.
In the case of Baby Gray is banned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Baby Gray should have just had like the opposite of a pair ban and say you can only use this card if you're playing slimes, or Spirit of Slime, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spirit of Slime and Sylvie, or maybe even a Sylvie level 3. If you're using Sylvie level 3, you can use Baby Gray Slime. Otherwise, it's restricted from playing every other deck. That way, you don't have to get rid of the card that's good for the one deck, and you also like smack down every other deck that's abusing the engine.
So
So
realistically, I think, and this might be a hot take. I think the card that was more of an issue in there was Baby Green Slime. And Baby Green Slime is still
Baby Green Slime is nasty.
yeah. So, and
Reduced
like
to Ash in response, Baby Green.
yeah, I still I still think it's necessary, because like I know like Win Guoja plays it and it's really good in the Win variant for that. So I guess that is kind of a really hot take on my part, where I can definitely agree with you that Baby Gray was the way to go there.
Well, I didn't play the game during that time. I only learned about it after. So I'm just commenting based on what I've seen. And the logic was, yeah, it was being used in many decks. So we hit the card. But it's like, did you really need to hit the card? Or if you didn't lock yourself into this cat 1, cat 2, cat 3 system, which doesn't even necessarily, not to say it doesn't work, but they don't necessarily follow it, right? Like
Yeah.
Ryle straight into cat 2, or I'm sure I can't even remember the card, but we had a card go straight into cat 3, didn't we?
Um, I I think we did.
Or is
I
it
have
cat
the
1?
actual ban. Let me look at the ban restricted list because I literally have it up on my screen right now. Yes, we had. I can't remember if. No, I think it was, yeah. It was the fractal, the water fractal from
Oh,
HVN.
right, yes.
Yes.
Right. Straight into cat 3. And it's like, all right, so you're not like originally you came out and you said, all right, the card's gonna go from cat 1 to cat 2 to cat 3, and now we just have cards that can go straight into cat 2 or cat 3, and I don't have a problem with that. But clearly you are acknowledging over the course of the game that we have issues, and you can't necessarily follow this line. And if you don't lock yourself into just saying, cat 1, cat 2, cat 3, I agree with just outright banning cards rather than restricting them. I do hate oh, cool, I saw the one of. So like, yeah, screw it. Just ban the cards. I don't mind that. But something like pair bans is something that could be useful because we already errata cards. 3 visits was errata. Baby Gray could have just been limited to working with
Yeah, pair ban.
Sylvie 3.
And
And in the
I
case of God,
I do agree that, or I do think that some cards do fully deserve to be banned. Erupting Rhapsody,
absolutely.
ups,
Oh my goodness.
Icebound Slam, Sword of Avarice, and
Sort of avarice. I didn't play during like any of these cards, but I can just read these cards and be like, yeah,
yep.
yeah, that makes
Korhazi
sense.
Outlook with Tristan. So imagine just not being able to respond to a Shadow Strike.
I know. I played when I played like a year and a half ago. That's when Korhazi Outlook was unbanned, and I was playing Sylvie at the time, so I didn't even have responses necessarily to begin with.
Yep.
But then I was like, oh yeah, I can't. Even if I wanted to like baby green something, yeah, no, you can't. I'm like,
Nope.
what do you mean?
Nope, you have to respond to the Korhazi or you don't get to play any cards. And in all fairness, they did retrain that card, which I'm glad they did because like after losing that prep generation and everything, the deck did kind of it didn't fully like suck to play the car or the play the deck, but it did slow down their prep generation. If you didn't it was at the point of if you didn't see Sadi, you weren't generating much.
Right.
So you would have had to sit there on Windwalker boots for turns and turns before you were actually able to do something. So bringing a retrain of Korhazi Outlook, I think was a great thing on their part.
Right, for sure.
But that
So it's
also
like,
no, go ahead, go ahead.
it's just like when we talk about some of these cards and we talk about metagame health. It's like, yeah, I like Ryle. I really like Ryle. I'm a Dirty Fire player. Outside of Sylvie, I've been a Dirty Fire player since I started the game.
There you go. Some not ashamed to admit it at least. I mean, I've always been partial to water, so I really can't say anything.
Yeah, you've had your time in the limelight.
Technically, water has had its time in the limelight. It doesn't necessarily mean I have subjected to those lists. As I said before, I like to play unique, fun ideas and everything. Every now and then, I will break down and just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna go and play this degenerate strategy because I don't feel like playing anything else.
Yeah, for real. I feel like I'm not necessarily getting to that point right now because I still very much like Lorraine, but I can definitely say like I guess we're gonna kind of shift topics here, but in playing Lorraine, like I played it before Ensol was like, oh cool, I can play Ensol. So now that like Ensol's around, everybody's like, oh, I can do Ensol. I look at Ensol and I'm just like, I mean, that's cool, I guess, but everybody's playing Ensol. I don't want to play Ensol because I've always been that player. I'm like, I don't want to play what everybody else is playing. I want
Same,
to
same.
play my own thing. And I'm like, I'm already kind of going past my philosophy, so to say, because I'm playing Lorraine and everybody else is playing Lorraine. But you know what? If I'm gonna play Lorraine, I'm gonna play Lorraine differently than
Yep.
everybody else.
Yep.
But I'm still gonna play Ryle because I'm a dirty fire player.
So what are you doing differently with your Lorraine? What makes your Lorraine different?
I'm not gonna say it makes it like overly different, but I just don't play Ensol. I just don't care for the Ensol game plan. I don't care to put 6 cards down from my hand for this Ensol, and then sure, like if it resolves, 9 times out of 10 I win. But it just feels like it's not a win more card. It's obviously a win card, but I
Yes.
feel like I can also win in other ways without relying on this 6 drop card. Like I could drop 3 for a devastating blow and swing for 15 and push past your resolute stand. Or I could hone by fire on a votive runeblade, which I've done many times, and I can swing 2 to 3 times and again push past your resolute stand.
Yep. So
So
here's a fun fact. I don't know if you knew this about the game. In the beginning, and this is a Lorraine fact, in the beginning, before they errated the card or errated the way that it plays, Dungeon Guide used to actually wake up your champion.
oh no.
So in the beginning in DOA, there was what was called like Ferrari Lorraine, where it was just fire aggro Lorraine basically. But whenever you dungeon guided, your champion woke back up.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. So you could
I
swing
can
with
only
Lorraine too.
imagine.
You could swing with Lorraine too. Get like whatever whatever damage you could put out with that. Dungeon guide into Lorraine 3 and then swing again and still have the lingering effect from Lorraine 2.
Yeah, I am glad that's not a thing. I can't tell you how many times I've done a flame sweep on Lorraine too, and that's fine.
Oh, that feels so
But
so nice though.
it's so disgusting. But sometimes I don't have flame sweeps. I'm just like, all right, well, I guess I'll just take the one ally out and get the 1 card refund, and then I'll DG into 3 and then just rest. But if I was able to DG, restand, and then swing again, that would be disgusting. I'm glad that's not a thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's in the past. It's in the history of and there is a lot of history of just crazy over the top plays and things that have been done in this game. Um, and that's just one of them. So let me ask you this: which Lorraine do you prefer? Are you a Crux Knight?
So I'll tell you Crux Knight right off the bat. But the only reason I'll say Crux Knight isn't because of Crux. Well, it's partially because of Crux Knight, but it's more because of the one sword that I can play with the deck, which is Clarent Reimagined, which
Yes.
is the card that makes me, as I say it, it's the card that makes me not want to play anything else, like in competitive play. Because when I come up against fire aggro, or fire ping aggro, I should say, as long as I can get a Clarent out, I survive just even if it's like 1 or 2 turns longer. That's all I need sometimes to be able to eke the win out. And so Crux Knight, because then once I go into level 3, I just automatically have a do attack buff rather than okay, cool. I went into Spirit Ruler and sure I get this sword out. I think what put me off with Spirit Ruler is the one time I was like Sword Saint's Vow, and I know I can't. Oh yeah, Sword Saint Vow is a one drop. So Spirit Ruler can pull it out. So I went for the play. I pulled out the Sword Saint's Vow. It got the 3 durability, and then I went like a Hone by Fire, and then a Tempered Steel, and this Sword Saint's Vow was gonna swing for like 10. I was like, yeah. And then they suppressed my sword, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's
Oh. I
it
was like, I
feels
don't like
bad.
this anymore, Dad. I hate it here.
Oh man.
And
Uh,
sure, that's one matchup. That's the one wind matchup that would suppress my sword. But
it's just
I
wind
don't like
doing wind
my
things. That's what wind does.
yes. Either wind doing wind suppressing, or water just being like, yeah, no attacks for you. And I just like a little bit more resiliency in my game plan than relying on this one wombo combo. Which is why Like I like the way that Bobby Sortia talked about his deck for Ascent Boston. It was like, yeah, I couldn't play End Soul and win, but I didn't have to just win on End Soul. And he had Rending Flames, and of course, in the way that like I saw it as he was playing during finals, you can also just swing Clarent 3 times for 5 damage because it's totally a win con.
Yep.
You don't need to see End Soul to win. And yeah, that's what I like. I like the multiple avenues to win, not just this. Well, if I don't see the one card out of 60, then I probably don't win this game.
Now I that makes perfect sense. In all honesty, it really does. Um, while we're talking on that, you just mentioned, obviously Bobby Tortilla. Congrats again to him for winning Ascent Boston. Uh, I want to talk about the other deck in the room, the one that took what 5 of the slots in top
Five of
eight.
eight, baby.
Yeah, let's talk some Vanitas here. Have you ever toyed around with Vanitas?
I have not before I saw the deck at Ascent Boston.
That was such an interesting deck, and I just watched so the Chess Club just put out a podcast talking about it, and I guess they're going to put out um a more detailed video talking about the Vanitas deck in specifics. But just listening to them all talk about this deck, and shout out to them, congrats to them for creating this deck, this strategy. It's mathematically crazy. The way they broke it down was it's mathematically broken down to do what it needs to do. So you're going down to exactly like roughly no cards basically in order to the way that they put it was to stymie your opponent from doing things. So by you losing all of your card advantage for a couple of turns, which you're going to build it back up really quickly over the course of the next couple turns, they're being taxed and losing that advantage and not being able to do as much as they were going to be able to do without, paying that tax.
Yeah.
Or they risk themselves losing by not leveling up or anything if they're if you can get them on a spirit, because they said if you're going first and you open up like dungeon guide, you just immediately go level 1, play dungeon guide, play it like a 2-cost horse, and go straight up into Vanitas level 3. And so you're already level 3 while they're still sitting on a spirit, and that Vanitas right then and there is already smacking you for quite the number. Like you're taking 3 damage and getting taxed right off the rip. And then if you played a horse, they're taking another 3 damage right there. If it's red hair or Dilu.
Yeah, it's very nasty what it's capable of doing. Just the sheer, I mean, it's it's like they're calling it during stream. It's horse and taxes.
Horse and taxes, and then you follow up the next turn with, if you're playing up against a Ryle strategy, it's like, okay, cool, I'm just going to bring out Censor, and we're gonna call it a day.
Good luck, bud.
Yeah,
That's all I have to say.
good luck, man. Exactly. But no, honestly, like Ascent Boston turned out, at least meta wise, exactly as I thought it was going to. I knew that there was going to be a lot of fire. I knew that there was going to be a lot of Ryle the Abyss. I wish there
Yeah,
was
Ryle is
more.
cracked.
What was that?
Yeah, I mean, Ryle is cracked. Like, if you're gonna play fire,
Yeah. Yeah.
why not? Even if you don't, that's how I felt. I went. What did I do? I think I went 3-1. No, I think I went 2-4. I think 2-4 was my drop. Yeah, 2-4. But every game was winnable. And the games that I won, generally speaking, like Ryle did the thing, or even if it was like a creative shock into a liminal, I think I was watching the Talk GA podcast today, and they were talking about how, or I think it was Mark who was saying that it's not Ryle. Like Ryle is a very good card, but
It's
Liminal is a
liminal, and
really
that,
good
yep.
card.
I was just watching that
Hmm.
same podcast, but I thought the exact same um when looking at the cards. Like Ryle is technically a break even, just like Creative Shock is a break even, and Cremation Ritual is a break even. Um, but what puts it over the top is the liminal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the entire package,
Yeah.
right? Because Eva said that it's just the fact that you have two generic float, which is definitely a very big thing. I mean, it just makes it a very cohesive 15 to 16 card package. But even if you just look at Liminal in a bubble and you think about, all right, if they pull away Ryle, as a fire deck, you should probably still play Liminal, even if you don't play the other cards, because you can still do Hasty Messenger, you still have Creative Shock, and you still have Cremation Ritual. And as long as you can get that card, even one of them in your trash, it's like cool. You can either play it, swing, cremate it, and then bring it back on the level up, or you can just go hasty, swing, use some fast action, floating memory, then you can level up and get that liminal out. And even beyond the card draw, which is great, that 1/3 body, people don't deal with that body, which is crazy. Like nobody deals with the liminal guide,
No, and
and
the
part of
funny
it's
thing
because it's
is you can blink it. You can literally blink it with like a Zephyr and it has to go away because it's technically leaving the board.
right. So it's like, sorry, because nobody deals with it, and then you don't have. I believe the breakdown was wind was the well, technically, water was the least because wind was kind of being buffed up by Vanitas. But even with the amount of wind decks that there were, like, yeah, there's nobody dealing with these liminal guides, and now you just got this 1/3 body, and anytime that I had the opportunity to do so, I'm Undying Dreams on my liminal guide. So now I have a 2/4, which makes it even. I have my own Frostborn Paladin. Haha, water. Haha.
Technically a 3/5 if you play it on if you're attacking with it on your turn.
Exactly. I have a 2/4 or a 3/5, and you don't deal with it. So I'm just gonna keep swinging. I get to deal with your board, and if in the case of Ryle, I get 2, 3 liminals in trash. Yeah, I mean, I just now have my undead army of liminal guides, just trying to
Yup.
murder you every turn.
No, no, and I agree. Most of the time, it's like when you play Dungeon Guide. Most of the time, they'll just ignore it unless there's a reason to remove it. Like obviously, Tristan will prey on it because they'll just put a damage into it and then have Sadi finish it off, and then they get Agility 3. So like,
Yep,
it's the same thing.
exactly.
It's the same thing. Although I guess they have to try a little harder with Liminal if you have an Undying Dreams, but um. But yeah, the as I was saying, the meta shaped out exactly as I thought it was going to at the event. And despite knowing this, I had gone there full well planning to play CL for the day.
Which
And
version of CL? That's the real
so I
question.
was playing with both of them, but the version I went with, I was going to go with the Baleful version because
Okay,
dealing 30 to somebody with like, just being able to
it's so
cycle Baleful
nasty.
like that, it's just so disgusting.
Yep.
It's such a blowout when it comes to that. And I was dead set on it. And then the day before the event, we were play testing, and I was play testing with one of our locals. His name's Jack, and he actually made day 2, which is crazy. But he was unsuited, and he whomped me like 6 games in a row. And I was like, all right, this feels too slow. If I go up against anything that's like this, I'm just going to get washed. So
Yep.
I was stressing, trying to figure out what to play because I had gone there with 2 decks in mind. I went there with Baleful CL, and I went there with I had Jin on the back burner as my backup idea because I really felt like Jin, and clearly Jin did play well into the meta. Um, I really felt like that was going to be a good meta call if I had to fall back on something. What did I do? I didn't fall back on either of those two. I chose to play Water Diana because I had just picked up the CSRs. And I love playing Diana. I really do. It's like one of my favorite decks to play in this game. And I was like, you know what? This is my first ascent. I'm stressing way too hard about this. I'm just going to try to have fun and play it out. And I just got back to back to back ripped apart by things. And I had a couple decent games with a couple players. I think it was against one of the Lineage Break guys. He was playing Onsol, and he's like, dude, you made me sweat. He's like, I almost lost that one, and it's just because of what Onsol is able to do versus what I'm able to do, and I lost to the RNG Mad Hatter deck. If you, I don't know if you know what that one is.
I do know which one that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost to
That can
that.
hit
That
very
didn't feel
hard,
good at
very
all.
fast. Yep. I bet.
So by here's the funny part of this. So by round 6, I was just burnt out because I had been on just a constant losing streak. I had one win the entire day, and I was like, all right, I was gonna play this out for the points, but I think I'm just gonna drop. And I had like I don't know if it was like a fever dream or what it was, but I swear to God, like I played Dungeon Guide. Somehow in my mind saw myself go up to level 3 and just continued playing the game when my brain or whatever caught up to my brain at that point. I had played a card, and they're like, you can't play that. I'm like, yeah, but I'm level 3. They're like, no, you're not. And I look down and I'm not level 3.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I completely just botched that one entirely. And then I just round 7 I scooped it up, and I was just like, I'm sorry, man. I can't do this. I have to call it quits. It was one of those days that literally went up to the hotel room, took a shower just to wash the filth of the day off.
Not the Phil.
Yeah, it was one of those days. Like I called my wife, I got something for dinner, and I was just like, yeah, today was a bad day. I came up, cleaned off, went back downstairs, and just kind of enjoyed the rest of the event. And then Sundays when it was all cool. Like I got to meet Silidar, got to meet the social media manager. I got to meet, Clem and Once in Love and the Lineage Break guys, which, by the way, if you shout out to the Lineage Break guys, if you have not met any of them, especially Trusty Steve, he is literally the nicest person, one of the nicest people I've ever met. Literally walked up and started talking to him and everything, and then went and hung out with him for a little bit. Like it was just like, oh, we're working on a Nico deck over in the main hall. You want to come and just hang out there? And it's like, yeah, sure. So just went and hung out with with Steve the rest of the day.
Hell yeah.
So, but other than that, it was about it. I wish I got to meet you there. Apparently, we literally crossed paths. Like you literally saw me sitting at the table there.
Yeah.
Had no
I
clue.
I watched the Diana CSRs go before my eyes, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it was happening.
So
And you know what's
go ahead, finish up.
No, you're good. Good.
Funny thing about that, talking about the fact that I always like to play decks that I enjoy and everything. Water Kong Ming was one of them. I really loved Kong Ming and her mechanics and everything, but she just doesn't get there. She's too slow. And they pushed back A and B altar, and there was no support on the horizon for her. And I was like, you know what? I have this full foiled out CSR Kong Ming deck and everything. I'm just gonna move it. And my deal with myself was, if this whole deck does not pay for all the like high expensive CSR foils and everything, and then some from trading it in, then I won't do it. Turns out I got like what was like 3,100 something towards a 2,300
Crazy.
line.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I got that. I picked up a foil Fragmented Spirit of Water. I picked up the foil God, what is the Vega, was it Radiant Vega?
Radiant Vega.
Yeah. I picked that up, and a couple other like just random foils for the deck and everything that they had on hand. Unfortunately, they didn't have any Weaving Mana Streams, but I'll get there eventually. So that's probably the
Oh
next
yeah.
deck I'll foil out because now I'm on like water Diana and everything as my go-to fun deck.
It's funny. I didn't even necessarily care to like get CSR Dianas. I just so happened to pull the Diana 2 in my DTR case, and I was like, okay, cool. This is either one of three, or this is at the time like $700. What do I rather? So going into Ascent Boston, I was like, I don't know if I'll actually pick anything up. I guess we'll see. So looking in the case, I was like, okay, they've got the 1 and the 3. I looked at my binder and I was like, I have all this stuff that I'll never use. I had Arthur's, I had an extra looking. I pulled 2 looking glass from my DTR case. My DTR case was busted.
Wow.
So I had an extra looking glass that I was like, I'm never going to use the second looking glass. Um, Arthur's at the time were like maybe at least 40. Gildis, I don't even know. I traded in stuff that basically would have had me grab the Diana 1 for almost value. And I was like, all right, I mean, I guess I can do this. And then obviously you picked up the lines. I was like, all right, I mean, I guess I'll pick up the 3 because it's still worth it to trade this stuff in. And I'd rather not pay $900 out of pocket for this. It's cooler if I only pay like 300 because of all my trade-ins. So that's what happened. But between like Diana and CL, personally, I kind of prefer CL. Like I like Diana a lot, waifu, whatever. But I don't know, something about this Umbra Guardian that I feel like his game plan is just so much more like he has so many different ways you can take that deck. Like obviously Advent is one way to go about it. You have I played against this one on Yeti that was a big focus on Mad Tea Party and Siphoning Fractal.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just
yeah. Okay.
heal and deal damage, but more heal, and I'll never die, and eventually you will die. And then I feel like there's more unexplored routes with CL. I'm just like, man, CL is so cool. And somehow I've ended up with 2 Diana CSRs.
Yeah,
So,
I kind of questioned myself too because they did have the 1, 2, and 3 there for CL, and I was like, should I have gone for CL instead? Because like CL, I didn't really expect to enjoy playing as much as I have been enjoying playing CL, and um that Tea Party list you're talking about. Now I don't play Mad Tea Party in mine, but it's the same overall strat where you play the Carters and the fractal that siphons life and everything, and his it's like something vortex, his the 6 cost card that
yeah, it's Sorturi.
yeah, I'm not good at
I
French,
can't
so
pronounce it. Sortire Vortex. I think that's how it is.
like every most of his cards remind me of Sanji from One Piece. Like all of his moves are like
Absolutely.
French.
Diable Jamblé.
Yep. Exactly. But no, so I but it is a crazy deck because when you if you have those fractals out and you drop a Carter, it does so much damage and you heal for so much. It
It
is
is crazy.
it is a crazy swing of tempo at that point because you can go from a losing position, you're wiping their board, and then you're healing for double or triple based on how many of the fractals you have out there.
Exactly. The reason I even won, I've only played against this iteration of the deck once, and the reason I even won against it was because I had a turn where I put him to maybe like, I don't know, 20, 22 damage, and I was like, cool, I win next turn. Next thing you know, a Carter's coming down, the board's being wiped, and he heals all the way down to like 10. And
Yep.
I, meanwhile, absorbed like 8 damage. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, and then
What is
after
this?
that, everything you do, even if you kill their allies, those fractals ping you for one. Like you get punished for killing their stuff.
Exactly. And that's why I love Clarent Reimagined.
Yep.
It's the one thing that keeps me on Clarence.
Yep. No, that's a fair point. But no, it's like I really enjoy playing CL. I'm currently playing around with a water list at the moment because I feel like there is something I've seen some of the water lists that have done something, but really feel like it's an untapped area for CL, and it's something that I've been tinkering around with at the moment because I'm at that point in the meta where I'm like, all right, I have a regional or two coming up, which we'll actually talk about that here in a second. But I'm in the process of testing decks and trying to figure out if there's anything that's off meta that I want to bring for a regional.
Yep.
So, but on the topic of regionals, you and I have found out we're both from Pennsylvania,
Yep.
and we both have card shops within a certain radius of us, but Banish Zone in specifics. Uh, that I know you've been to Banish Zone. I've been. I go there for their regionals and things like that. My home shop is Lazarus Games, and then I know I watched in one of your recent videos that you have a local card shop that you guys are kicking off.
Right. So, disclaimer that none of my LGSs are true. Like, oh, cool. I only get to drive like 5-10 minutes to get to my LGS. I drive like 30 minutes to get to my Mana and Mochas is what they're called. It's like 30 to 40 minutes, depending on what traffic looks like. But any card shop is better than no card shop. So I won't complain about that.
No.
I do wish that we had more in Allentown, but the 3 card shops that we have, ah, they could never for various reasons. So, but yeah, Mana and Mocha, it's pretty cool. Just learned today or yesterday they've only been open for 4 months, so it's really cool to see the growth of a card shop. They are one of the like hybrid like card shop, and they sell. They're called Mana and Mocha because they sell like coffee and drinks and stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the story behind them starting was the one day. So it's the guy. His name is Mocha Joe, and he has his wife, and she was going for nursing school, and they told her she was going to get in, but then they waitlisted her, and she was like, "What do you mean waitlisted?" So she went to Dunkin' Donuts one day and got a coffee and got pissed off because the coffee was ass, and said, "Screw it, I want to start my own coffee shop." And he was like, "Okay, can I start a card shop in the coffee shop?" And that's where Mana and Mochas came from. And I
So
was like, "That's that's the dream."
yeah.
Like,
So is his name really Mocha Joe? Is that like legally his
no,
name?
no, I'm
Okay,
sure his name
I
is
was
something
about to
different.
say I was about to say that is
That's what
a
we call him.
wild thing if his name was
He
like
was
legitimately.
destined for
Yeah,
this.
bro, like this is ingrained in your DNA. Like you were made for this.
Exactly.
No, it sounds
So
cool.
yeah, they've
Yeah. So how
they've been open
is
for
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
no, you're good. They've been open for 4 months. I learned about them. Honestly, I probably learned about them very early on as I think about it, because originally, I was looking for, not looking. I came to terms with only having one Digimon local in a like 40-mile radius of me, which is up in East Stroudsburg. So the one day, someone like had mentioned Mana and Mocha for Digimon, and I was like, okay. I was like, doesn't seem. I don't know how many people are actually going to, show up, because Digimon in our area has been kind of like not hit or miss, but it's just like weird. Like people will show up and then they'll just disappear. So I was
Yep,
like, yeah, it's whatever.
I'm familiar with the and it's like that with most Bandai games. Like it will you'll have like a boom and then everybody's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I was just like, yeah, whatever. And then when I got into GA, I went on Omnidex and I was like, all right, cool. What stores are serving Grand Archive? Obviously, the Banished Zone. And they came up, so I joined the Discord. I had asked like, hey, what's up? Basically, they didn't. I didn't know they were only open at that time, maybe like 2 months. So it makes sense why like there was nobody really there just yet. There was someone trying to start one as well, but that was it. So I was just like, okay, I guess this is a lost cause. But Digimon had really kicked off at the store. So a couple of my friends joined, and they started going there for Digimon some weeks, and then he had gotten on DTR release. He got it. I went down to check it out because he had also gotten Gundam and Grand Archive released on the same weekend, which was an absolute travesty for me because I was extremely interested in
Ooh.
both.
Yeah.
So I
The
ended up
struggle.
buying a lot that weekend. But I went down because he had boxes of Gundam. And then I saw he had a case of DTR. And I was like, hey, are you selling that? He was like, yes. And I was like, okay, bet. And then he was like, yeah, I would like to try to start GA here because GA, I like the art and it seems very interesting. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm totally down. Just let me know. And our first locals was 2 weeks ago because it was before Sent Boston. And we had 4 people, including him, but still 4 people, which was pretty nice.
That's the
Getting the
minimum
locals to
requirement.
fire off. Exactly. So now we're, the aim is keep it stable, keep it growing. But it is nice to have it's nice to see the game grow, especially a game like Grand Archive.
Hmm.
B, it is nice to have more stores in the area serving Grand Archive because I believe we are up to a total of two, one, two, three, four. I think this makes the 5th or the 6th store in maybe a 50-mile radius doing Grand Archive on any given day of the week, which is pretty nifty.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. Cause I live in Harrisburg. I don't know how far Allentown is. I know it's not terribly far,
It's
but
about an hour.
yeah. But so I don't know which direction Mana Imoca is from Harrisburg. If it's like further out than an hour, or if it's in that like halfway point type deal. But
Nah, it's up towards our Pennsyltucky area.
I am
So
so glad I am not the only person that uses that terminology, because I'll get people from out of town and I'll be like, "Yeah, welcome to Pennsyltucky." And they're like, "Huh?"
if you live in Pennsylvania, then you know. If you don't
Yeah,
live in Pennsylvania, let me just tell you, Pennsylvania, you get a little bit of everything when
you
you're
got
here.
you got you got deer, you got potholes, you have Amish.
Oh my goodness, yes.
If you've
Look
ever
to your
gotten
left
stuck
and you
behind a
might see
horse
them
and
walking by.
buggy. So no, and then yeah, you got Pennsyltucky basically. So, but no, yeah, I'm so glad that there's more stores that are picking up, because I remembered like when, and this was like hard to believe, it's been 2.5 years roughly since I got into the game, and the game was out a little bit before that because I got in at DOA Alter, and looking for somewhere to play was rough. Like there wasn't
Yeah.
really much of anything at that point. So, and
Just
that's
the
how.
struggle with any card game that is not
Yep.
like the big five, let's just say right now.
Well, and is it just me, or does it seem like Pennsylvania usually, like whenever a new game comes out and everyone's hype about it, but Pennsylvania just seems to be like a dry spot?
Well, it is, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so freaking big and obnoxious. Unless you're in like the hot spot of like Philly or Pittsburgh on
Mm-hmm.
two different ends of the state.
Yes.
Good luck with anything in between.
Yep. And then finding product for, like, I remember for Digimon and like Dragon Ball and stuff, I used to have to drive to the store that was like maybe an hour and a half away just to get product, because
Yep.
nowhere near me had it.
Yep. That is
And
the unfortunate thing.
yeah, and stores had been burned so bad by Bandai prior that they just didn't want to pick up the product.
Yep.
And then you get to that
That
point where like the game grows, and it was like that with One Piece, where it gets to because I had gotten in at the pre-release of One Piece and everything, and then trying to find product was just a nightmare. And that's why at that point I stopped right then and there, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing this again. We're just moving on to the next thing. But after so long, all of a sudden these stores started picking up boxes and everything. And it's like, oh, where were you months ago?
Well, one of the biggest problems, and it's why more glazing for GA. It's why I appreciate Weebs. Um, Bandai works on a tactic, and people may disagree, but you have to look at the facts. They work on a tactic where they will artificially create FOMO. And I have to say they artificially create it because if you look at the release of Gundam, we were required, every store, like our store, Gamers Edge in East Stroudsburg, we were required to put pre-orders in March. We didn't even know what was going to be in the set. We didn't know anything about anything outside of the beta kits. So those pre-orders were due in March. And they say you got to get your pre-orders in because if you don't get your pre-orders in, we can't guarantee that we can give you anything at the time of release. Okay, so you're telling me that here's the pre-orders that get placed. Let's say we would normally order about 6 cases or so, 6 to 8 cases. And now come the release of Gundam, and we have gotten all of what? 2 cases? Like, what do you mean? What happened to the other 6 cases that I ordered? Well, you know, I don't even know what reason they could give for not, giving more allocation. Like, obviously, the bigger stores will order upwards of 40, 50, 60 cases. It's not like they would under order. So you can't even say, oh, yeah, they just took it and gave it to other stores. So, like, it really is a question of Bandai. Like, how is this something you keep doing? Is because they create this artificial hype that makes people think, damn, I gotta try to get into this game. And I mean, it's a business tactic and it works, unfortunately, but it also, for some players, just means that, they're just not going to bother.
No, and
And
that's what I like. So just steering it back to GA because we are a GA podcast.
right,
But the, on that same topic, the way that they handle their rollout of a new set, like we just had a set Boston. The set DTR is maybe like a month old at this point, roughly. Um, they just announced the next set. They gave a couple spoiler images. They announced the recollection deck that comes every other set. So every half set we get a recollection deck, usually two. This time they gave us only one, which I'm not complaining about because, that's less that I have to worry about buying. But especially with these tariffs right now, and they had announced that at Boston as well that, prices are going to go up a little bit because things are going on with these tariffs. And I just got off with I think it was yesterday, my guy that I buy product through. He was like, "Oh, did you see the prices of all these went up?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to pay more," but I digress. Anyway, the way that they roll out things is I really like the way that they do that. So they gave us a taste, and that's all we really needed for like everybody to just be completely and utterly amazed and excited for this next set. And then over the course of the next couple months, they'll start leaking images and then they'll announce which content creators are getting stuff. They'll each get individual cards to spoil, and it's a good way of going about things, whereas with Bandai and some of these other games that's not like that. Like you might see a card or a handful of cards, but like you won't have any idea what else is in the set at that point.
right. And even taking it like a step further, placing these pre-orders in advance. I know pre-order, well, it's not even like all that in advance, right? Because I think pre-orders for PTM and everything is due by like October 1st.
Yeah.
And then it comes out in December. So that's a 2 month lead time. And sure, like other card games, whether it's Pokemon or Magic or any Bandai game, like they print Pokemon, I believe, prints in each region. Magic prints in the US, and then Bandai prints in Japan and they ship out. But they don't, it's kind of like, all right, we've printed once and we're probably done printing this. We're probably never printing this again. Rarely, in the case of like something like One Piece, you'll have multiple prints of the set come out. But that I feel like that was an anomaly. And for Weebs, I love the idea of first edition and then alter edition.
Yep.
Here's something to say, cool. You wanted to support the game. You wanted to buy the stuff right when it came out. Here's your first edition. Here's all the CSRs you can pull. Here's all the CURs you can pull because I think the Ultra editions don't get CURs, right?
No, no.
So here's all the cool stuff that you can get for going all in on the first edition, really making the first edition, be a first edition. And we will reprint, don't worry. It's not like in the case of like DTR, at some point next year we'll get a Ultra edition. But uh right now, we can pull the Alice. Is there another CUR or is Alice the only CUR?
Alice is the only CUR.
Okay, so
Usually
right
it's
now we can pull the
one.
Alice and
I think it's one per set since I I can't remember if DOA had multiples or not. Um, but I
uh,
know every other set had. I think if I remember correctly, I think ALC didn't have one.
okay. I
I'm
wouldn't remember, but
Yeah, I'm trying to
just the
think
sheer
back,
fact
but
that
yeah.
just the sheer fact that there's such an incentive for being the early adopter and then not punishing stores for not early adopting by or stores or players for that matter by giving the Ultra Edition and then also giving the Ultra Editions their own ways of like you have the alternate art URs, not all the arts remain the same going into Ultra Edition. And then they will put new cards in the Ultra Edition to make those worthwhile to buy for newer play or for existing players as well. It really does hit like a lot of the boxes. And I think that's why we see a lot more stores pick it up because compared to I like Elestrals, and we're not going to talk much about it, but when you talk about like the adoption of the game, they both started. I think Electro started maybe like a year later, and they're making some sort of waves, and there are stories like picking it up. But for GA, there is a lot more incentive for any store, not even just LGS's, but
Hmm.
any store to see like, oh wow, this is a game that's making money. The fact that they went on TCG Player, and I mean, shoot, I uh I may have placed a $400 TCG order this week,
Oof.
and TCG Player sees $400 in sales for Grand Archive from this one person. How much other sales does TCG Player see on a regular basis for this game? That just ends up boding well for the game's growth as we go on. It bodes well for the stores. It bodes well for the players. Like
Yep.
just a lot of the boxes are going the right way.
No, absolutely. And I have to touch base on another thing and the glazing continues here for Weaves of the Shore. So, um, I have to commend them on the way that they handle their locals and tournament pack promos, specifically the pack promos. Even their prize cards are great. So we're gonna start with I'll start with the pack promos, like just for going to locals. So for me, our locals is free. We go in, we play. You're guaranteed one black pack per just for showing up. Um, and you have a chance to win more if you get first, second, third, or I think fourth is where the cutoff is for us. Where like third and fourth get like two packs, and like first and second get more than that, something like that. But it's just cards from the set. But you have a chance to pull at like you have a higher chance at pulling foils. You have a higher chance at pulling maybe a CSR. Funny story. I didn't go to locals. We have locals twice a week right now. We do them on Tuesdays and Sundays, and I wasn't able to make Tuesday's local. So, but there was a new player that showed up that apparently had just learned the game, and they pulled a CSR out of their black pack just for showing up.
Nice. That's crazy.
It was
And that's cool.
the Umbra, the maid for CL.
Okay,
Yeah.
Marianne, yep.
So that's like I think that's like a $400 or $500 card.
Sheesh.
So, but just for showing up and playing, you get, and that's what I'm saying by comparison to other places like Bandai and whatnot, where you have to buy these promo or these tournament pack promos because they're so expensive and they don't come in a set.
Yep.
And I remember the chase for that was real. And you and I were talking before the show about Battle Spirit Saga, how much of a fail that was, but specifically Axe Biter in itself, like that card was such a meta shift card, and it came out of a tournament pack.
Stupid.
And
Crazy.
I remember the pull rates on that. The pull rates of getting an Axe Biter out of a tournament kit were abysmal. Like there might be two in there versus like three or four of every other card.
Yep.
It was awful. But and that's something I really have to say. And then even like the Sapphire packs, that's a really cool way to get guaranteed foils of cards that came in the starter decks and whatnot for going to a higher level event. And that's not even touching on the accessories and cool stuff that you get just for showing up to a higher level event like a regional or something. You show up to this a regional this year, they're doing these little tokens, and they're not just shoddy tokens either. They're not like, oh, we painted this on a piece of cardboard. Thanks for coming to our regional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They're actually like legitimate, like metal. They look like metal, at least coins. And I'm gonna safely say that there's some kind of metal because everything else that they've made has been such high quality.
They look really high quality from the photos, and it is cool. I mean, every aspect of it just being like incentive for the players. That's at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Like as players, and this was my thing about like why I started playing GA more over Digimon. As a player, I need value. I need value in two different ways. I need value in like the thing I'm paying, right? It's not like all this is free. And I don't have the value for entering a tournament, and I don't have the value for winning a tournament. I know that I'm good in Digimon, and I know I can top if I really tried. But what incentive do I have to really push for that? Oh, cool. Hey guys, I won a regional. I won a regional 2 years ago for Digimon, and I always say this: all I have to show for it is a playmat that doesn't even really acknowledge me as a champion because it doesn't say like champion, winner, first place. It's just Digimon card game championship, which is the
Yep.
logo for like the competitive play series, and then it's a Jesmon, which is cool. But looking at it, you wouldn't know that it's like the winner playmat unless you knew that this art in particular was the winner playmat. It's like, oh yeah, that's all I have to show for it. And our prize cards were trash. Meanwhile, for Ascent Boston, you have people like Jimmy Lee who's just like, yeah, I won Ascent, and here's my Ithne, and it's slabbed, and I can play my slabbed Ithne. Which is
Yep.
just like, yeah, that's like the ultimate flex.
Yeah. No. The God, the prizing, and just even just the entry stuff. So like for Ascent Boston, like the entry stuff, like you get your money back for what you put in to your ticket price and everything. Whereas like some of these other ones, you're paying these prices and you get what, a promo of a crappy card that no one's gonna play.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, oh cool, it's got a different art, or maybe it's foil and it didn't come foil. Whoop-de-doo, I'm not gonna use this card. Meanwhile,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And meanwhile, GA, like you get just high quality, like for the champion package, you got a deck box. And these deck boxes are, they're not just like those, like I know Bushy Road is notorious for it, and so is Yu-Gi-Oh. Those crappy foldable cheap plastic deck boxes that don't even hold a sleeve deck,
Yep, absolutely.
and or a pack of sleeves that will peel or something junky like that. But like the Grand Archive deck boxes are phenomenal. I've had other players from other card games fawn over the quality of the deck boxes and the playmats in this game. They're like, wow, ours feel like a mouse pad, and you know, like we have to go out and buy a better quality deck box versus like, that's not even like licensed by the game. So, and it's really cool that they put so much effort and so much value in these things. So like I was saying, you get a deck box, you get one of each, you get a foil and a non-foil version of an alternate art, and it's a pretty art of a card that is viable in some way shape. I know some of them aren't fully viable, like what was it, fireworks display, I think, was that one of the previous ascents. But usually it's a card that's in some way shape or form viable, like because they did Fractal of Rain for one of them too. So Fractal of Rain, this one was, what do we get, Tempered Steel, I think it was, which is still, it can be a
Yes,
viable card.
absolutely.
Yeah, but you get all that, and then you get these tickets, and you get what's called Sylvie Bucks. So you get an event ticket, which the event ticket in itself values for like $20, because to enter a side event it's $20. So you get $20 back from your entry there alone in that event ticket, and then you get Sylvie Bucks to spend at the event or at the Ascent store, which if you got the championship package, you can get a playmat that is valued at like $50 plus.
Yeah, the value is so immense just for it's great across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to purchase VIP tickets for Ascent Toronto, and it was like 9:01 p.m. And I was like, "Oh, there must be a glitch in the page." No, no, no. The tickets were sold out. And it's like, damn. Like I debated before if I was like maybe I should. And I was like, ah, screw it. I guess if I can, I will. And even just the sheer fact that because for the VIP ticket, I believe you get double the amount of so I think it's 800 Sylvie bucks.
Yep.
And then that lets you purchase two playmats. And you don't even one thing I learned, I was like, oh, I guess I have to spend my Sylvie bucks. I don't have to spend my Sylvie
Nope,
bucks.
you keep them.
I could just keep banking them because I was like, how the hell does somebody get like 4,000 Sylvie bucks? Like that seems crazy. Well, sorry, it wasn't for that. It must have been like 40,000 or something. I was like, that seems crazy. No, it's because you can just bank your Sylvie bucks and then come back to a later set, and then boom, you can pick yourself up an uncut sheet if you so please. I'm like,
Yep.
that's awesome. I love this. I love nerding out over all these little things that don't have to do with competitive play. Like the game is it's set up well in a lot of aspects, and I've really been enjoying it over my last 3 months.
Well, I'm glad, and it's good to have another member of the community and everything. And as the community is growing, you know, they have a lot of incentives too for content creators with the Creators Guild. I know, talking with the social media manager, he was talking about looking into branching out to people that do fan art and other things such as cosplay, stuff like that. So the fact that there's just so many different ways to enjoy and show your love for the game and be rewarded for just for enjoying and being a part of the community in the game is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, for real.
And it's something that some of these other games could really, really take a page from and really try, like, go back and look, because you might be solidified by time in your current position, but eventually people are going to get sick of the nonsense and look to something else, or those players are going to outgrow that, that game. And you, like, Yu-Gi-Oh in specifics has a new player problem. The game is so overly complicated and so expensive that new players just don't bother trying to get into it.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about here, where you can play casually in this. You can have a good time just playing, a casual deck or something. They even have the side events. They have starter deck tournaments. They have they're really putting a lot of focus into draft. I did draft twice at Ascent Boston, and I normally hate drafting in card games, but I had a blast drafting for Grand Archive. And whatever their Pantheon project is, which is supposed to be like a more casual based project from what I understand, I'm looking forward to see what that brings into the game, because that means there's just so many ways for you to enjoy playing the game and be rewarded for it.
Yep, most definitely.
So, um, with that, I guess we will just drop to closing thoughts here. Is there anything else that you want to say or you want to discuss before we wrap things up here?
No, just I think a lot of people get wrapped up in when it comes to like picking card games. There's like a card game wars. It's like, oh well, my card game is better than your card game. Listen, every card game rocks and every card game sucks, each in its own different way. We don't need to like go to war with each other.
Except Battle
Like,
Spirits Saga, because that game just needs to be dead and buried and should not have been made. That was a huge mistake.
yeah, and I can go on and on about Bandai Card Games Division because things, but at the end of the day, like if you're listening to this and you haven't played GA, or you're listening and you've only played a little bit and you're like, oh well, I don't necessarily know what I want to do, like it just you can hop into it and don't look at the price of certain cards and be like, oh, like I that game is too expensive for me. There are definitely budget deck lists. There are things that you can do, especially if you don't want to compete. You don't need to play all the busted stuff. You can get away with just some of it, and really just have fun and enjoy what the game allows you to do, which realistically speaking is anything. I haven't played Magic the Gathering before, but from what I hear, it's this game is basically like Magic with a little bit, different mechanics. And in Magic, it seems like you can do anything with anything. So if you enjoy Magic, you'll enjoy this, and vice versa.
No, those are some good closing thoughts to think about here. So, yeah, I don't think I have anything really to add on that. I can't follow that. But I do want to say, I do want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show and to uh take time out of your day and your schedule and everything to uh to be here and to talk about these things with me, especially for the fact that I'm still a growing channel. And I
Yeah,
had to,
absolutely.
yeah, like I said, I had to switch from Twitch here and kind of start from scratch and everything. So the fact that you took time out of your day and everything, it's really appreciated, and thank you again for that.
No problem.
So,
Always fun talking about GA.
oh yeah, absolutely, and clearly we can talk about this for even longer, but we don't want to keep
Exactly.
everyone too long.
Exactly.
So, but with that, guys, we're gonna wrap up today's podcast. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. Make sure you go and check out Main Phase TCG on YouTube. He does constant content on there. I think you put out videos like a couple times a week.
The goal is 3 times a week at minimum.
Man, I wish I could reach that level of things. Maybe in the near future, but editing kills me right now. So,
Absolutely. Trust me, I know.
yeah. But no, definitely check out Main Phase TCG, and you know, I love watching the content on there and everything, and I just I I can't thank you enough again for being here. So, but we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much again for watching, and we will see you guys on the next episode. So, until then, guys, take care.
Have a good time playing GA.